What you are about to see is not another muscle car screaming for attention on a showroom floor. It is something far more dangerous, a machine built to disappear into traffic and then vanish off the line before anyone even realizes what just happened. And today on Prime Car Culture, we are stepping inside the concept that has quietly become the most talked about sleeper build in the automotive world, the imagined 2027 Chevy Nova Super Sleeper, a modern reinterpretation of one of Chevrolet's most underrated nameplates. Reborn with a philosophy that says the loudest car in the room is rarely the fastest one. So buckle up, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this understated silhouette hides a heart that could humble cars costing 3 times as much. We begin right where every serious car story should begin, up close with the face of this machine, and the front grille immediately tells you this is not a car trying to shout for validation. It is narrow, tightly structured, finished in a deep gloss black mesh pattern that pulls cool air toward the engine with purpose rather than decoration. The horizontal slats are clean and restrained, the kind of design language that whispers confidence instead of screaming for it. And if you look closely, you will notice the subtle chrome outline tracing the lower edge, a small detail that separates a factory commuter from something engineered with intent. Moving in tighter, the headlights reveal just how deliberate this design really is. Slim projector housings sit low and wide across the nose, angled with a slight taper that gives the front end a focused, almost predatory stare without ever tipping into aggressive territory. The lens work is crisp, the internal detailing layered in a way that catches light beautifully. Whether you are parked under a street lamp or rolling through a sunset, and this restraint is exactly the point, because a true sleeper never wants to be recognized from a distance. Right beside those housings, the daytime running lights cut a thin, precise signature into the fascia, a sharp line of illumination that activates the moment the car wakes up, and there is something almost cinematic about watching that thin strip flicker to life in a dark garage. It is subtle, it is modern, and it gives just enough presence to let you know this is a current generation machine without turning the front end into a light show. Let's talk about the wheels for a moment, because on a build like this, the wheels tell a story, the bodywork refuses to. These are multi-spoke alloys finished in a satin dark finish, deceptively simple at first glance, until you notice the width of the rubber wrapped around them, wider than anything you would expect on what looks like an ordinary sedan silhouette. And that width is the first real clue. Tucked behind them, you can just make out the edge of upgraded brake calipers, a detail that rewards anyone paying close attention while remaining completely invisible to the average passerby. As we move along the flank of the car, the door handle comes into frame, flush-mounted, minimal, finished to match the body color, so it nearly disappears into the sheet metal. And this is another quiet design decision. Nothing here is meant to draw the eye. Every surface is working to keep this car looking as ordinary as possible from the outside. The side mirrors carry that same philosophy. Compact housings with integrated turn signal strips, sculpted just enough to reduce wind noise at speed without adding a single unnecessary line to the profile. They sit close to the body, aerodynamically tucked. And honestly, you could drive past this car in a parking lot 100 times without your eyes ever stopping on them, which is exactly the intention behind every inch of this build. Walking around to the rear now, the taillights are where the design finally allows itself a small moment of personality. A connected light bar stretches across the back end, thin and precise, glowing with a deep red hue that sharpens into crisp edges rather than a soft, diffused glow. And when you hit the brakes, the intensity shifts noticeably, a small theatrical touch on an otherwise understated rear fascia. It is the kind of detail that photographs beautifully at night and gives this sleeper just enough character to be memorable without ever becoming flashy. Below that, tucked into the lower rear valance, dual exhaust tips peek out, finished in a dark chrome that hints at what is happening under the floor pan. The tips themselves are unassuming in size, almost deceptively small. But anyone who has spent time around performance builds knows that exhaust note has nothing to do with tip diameter. And when this car eventually fires up later in this video, you are going to hear exactly why that small detail matters so much. Right in the center of the trunk lid, the brand emblem sits clean and proud, a simple badge that carries decades of American automotive heritage on a shape that refuses to advertise what is happening underneath it. And there is something almost poetic about a badge this quiet representing a car, this capable. It is heritage without arrogance, history without noise, and the more time you spend circling this car in person, the more you start to appreciate just how much restraint went into every single panel gap and character line, because building a genuine sleeper is honestly harder than building a car that screams for attention. Every designer on this project clearly understood that the goal was invisibility on the outside and confidence underneath, and that balance is exactly what makes this concept so compelling to car enthusiasts who have grown tired of loud spoilers and aggressive fender flares dominating the performance segment. Now let's step inside, because the exterior only tells half the story here. And the moment that door swings open, you are met with a cabin that feels far more premium than the exterior ever hinted at. A wide dashboard view stretches across the interior with soft touch surfaces, contrast stitching running along the edges, and a layout that feels driver-focused without being overwhelming. Every button, every vent, every panel gap has clearly been considered rather than simply assembled. The steering wheel sits front and center, wrapped in genuine leather with perforated grip sections at the 9 and 3 positions. Subtle contrast stitching traces the rim, and mounted controls sit flush and intuitive. This is a wheel built for someone who actually wants to drive, not just steer. Directly behind it, the digital instrument cluster glows to life with crisp, high-resolution graphics, cycling through drive modes with smooth animated transitions, speed, revs, and vital data laid out with a clarity that feels more premium sports sedan than budget commuter. And the way the lighting shifts depending on drive mode adds a genuinely satisfying layer of personality to the driving experience. To the right, the infotainment screen sits slightly angled toward the driver, a sharp, modern display running smooth navigation and media graphics, integrated seamlessly into the dash rather than looking like an aftermarket afterthought. And the response time when scrolling through menus feels immediate. No lag, no hesitation, just clean, modern software running through a display that looks like it belongs in something far more expensive. Down at the center console, the design continues that same theme of quiet luxury. A mix of brushed metal accents and soft touch plastics surrounds the controls. Cup holders and storage are tucked neatly beneath a sliding cover, and the entire layout feels purpose-built rather than borrowed from a parts bin. Right beside it, the gear shifter itself is a satisfying piece of engineering. A short throw unit finished in leather with a metal accent cap. The mechanical click as it moves through gears is tactile and precise, and there is a small illuminated ring around the base that pulses gently when the car is started, a tiny detail that adds real personality to what could have been a purely functional piece. The front seats deserve their own moment here, wrapped in premium leather with visible perforation patterns and bolstering that clearly hints at spirited driving rather than pure comfort cruising. The stitching is tight and consistent, contrast thread tracing every seam, and the headrests are integrated smoothly into the seatback silhouette. These are seats designed to hold you in place the moment this car decides to show its real personality. As night falls and the cabin lighting activates, the ambient lighting shot becomes one of the most striking parts of this entire interior tour. A soft glow traces the door panels, the lower dash, and the footwells, cycling through a range of tones that can be tailored to mood or drive mode. And in the darkness, the cabin transforms into something that feels almost lounge-like, a completely different atmosphere from the aggressive potential sitting under the hood. Looking closer at the door panels themselves, the attention to detail becomes even more obvious. Soft touch inserts blend into leather-wrapped armrests, contrast stitching runs in clean parallel lines, and brushed metal trim pieces catch the light along the lower edge. Every material choice here feels intentional. Nothing cheap, nothing hollow, just a cabin built with genuine care. And that leather stitching deserves one more close look on its own, because when you get right up against the seats and door trim, the precision becomes impossible to ignore. Evenly spaced, perfectly aligned, contrast thread that adds texture and depth to every surface it touches. This is the kind of detail that separates a car built to impress on paper from one built to be lived with every single day. Now, for the part this entire build has been quietly building toward, because underneath that unassuming hood sits the real reason this car earns the title of sleeper. Popping the hood open reveals a surprisingly clean and purposeful engine bay. Strut tower braces sit polished and proud. Wiring is tucked and routed with obvious care. And right in the center sits a power plant that looks completely at odds with the modest exterior wrapped around it. This is not a lazy commuter engine. This is a performance-oriented setup built for real acceleration. And getting in close on that engine reveals turbocharger housings, reinforced intake piping, and a general sense of mechanical seriousness that tells you everything you need to know before a single number gets mentioned. This is the heart of the sleeper, hidden in plain sight under sheet metal that never asked to be noticed. And that is the complete story of the 2027 Chevy Nova Super Sleeper concept, a car built on the idea that true performance does not need to announce itself. It simply needs to be ready the moment the light turns green. If this deep dive into design, craftsmanship, and hidden performance got your attention, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because this is exactly the kind of automotive storytelling we live for here on Prime Car Culture. Drop a detailed comment down below, telling us exactly which sleeper build you want us to feature next on this very channel. Give this video a like if you enjoyed riding along on this detailed, exhaustive, no shortcuts walk around with us today, and we will see you in the very next one. Until then, this has been Prime Car Culture. Stay sharp, stay endlessly so curious, and never judge a car by its silhouette alone.